I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
To be a Team USA skier, it takes dedication, determination, and lots of hard work. But it doesn't take all that to score unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases. Just use the Active Cash Visa credit card from Wells Fargo and tap to pay with that natural-born talent and unwavering focus. Earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases with the Active Cash Visa credit card from Wells Fargo. Terms apply. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Visa, proud sponsor of the Olympics and Paralympic Games.
And away we go, episode 1255 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Friday, February 6th, 2026, and at last we know when the introductory press conferences for the Washington Commanders' new offensive and defensive coordinators will be. This Tuesday afternoon, February 10th, and speaking to reporters will be three people. Head coach Dan Quinn at 1 p.m., the new offensive coordinator David Blau at 1:20 p.m., and the new defensive coordinator, Durante Jones, at 1:40 p.m. This will be the first time that Quinn has spoken to reporters since all of the changes to the Commanders' coaching staff. We last heard from Quinn during his and general manager Adam Peters' end-of-season press conference on January 5th. A lot has happened since then. You know, we had been wondering when we'd hear from Quinn, Blau, and Jones. Well, we now know this Tuesday afternoon, starting at 1. Hello and welcome to this Friday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Hey, the Super Bowl is this Sunday evening. Is it me, or is there just not a lot of juice for this Super Bowl? Maybe I feel that way because of the season that our team had. But Super Bowl 60, the Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California, this Sunday evening, February 8th at 6:30. When will Washington next be in a Super Bowl? We have been asking that question for a few years. Next segment, intel and perspective on a man who would seem to be very key for the Commanders being good again, as I'll speak with Los Angeles Rams insider and USC football insider Greg Beacham of the Associated Press about Eric Henderson, who the Commanders reportedly are hiring as defensive line coach and defensive run game coordinator. Henderson spent the 2024 and 2025 seasons as USC's co-defensive coordinator / defensive run game coordinator / defensive line coach. But he has significant NFL experience, including being with the Los Angeles Rams for the 2019 through 2023 seasons. He was the Rams defensive line coach for the 2019 and 2020 seasons. He was the Rams defensive line coach / defensive run game coordinator for the 2021 through 2023 seasons. So the Rams won the Super Bowl for the 2021 season. Is Eric Henderson someone who can get the Commanders defensive line to be good and get their run defense to be good? Greg Beacham knows Eric Henderson well, and having covered him during his time with the Rams and then during his time with the USC. Spoiler alert, there's a lot to like about Eric Henderson. Greg Beacham, next segment on Eric Henderson. And I will ask Greg about two former Washington players and one former Washington offensive coordinator doing well with the Rams. Safety Kamren, cornerback Emmanuel Forbes Jr., and head coach Sean McVay. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Capitals, Washington Wizards, and Maryland basketball. The Caps have arrived at their break for the Winter Olympics in Italy, and the Caps went into the break on a high note, a 4-2 win over the Nashville Predators at Capital One Arena on Thursday night to conclude going 4-1-0 going into the break. The Caps in this game got back two key guys in goaltender Logan Thompson and center Pierre-Luc Dubois, and each guy was very good in his return. The Wizards. I said the Wizards.
The damn Washington Wizards.
Yes, thank you. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith. Our Wizards, they on Thursday night officially announced the trade for Anthony Davis, what ended up being a 3-team trade with the Dallas Mavericks and Charlotte Hornets, as we on Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern had the 2026 NBA trade deadline. And the Wizards then inexplicably won at one of the best teams in the NBA, a 126-117 win at the Detroit Pistons on Thursday night, despite head coach Brian Keefe not playing 4 of his 5 starters at all in the fourth quarter. An unsuccessful tank in Maryland. It in the 2025-2026 regular season now is 1-10 in the Big Ten, an 82-62 loss to Ohio State at Xfinity Center in College Park, Maryland on Thursday night as the Terrapins' hideous season continues. Before we get to feedback, congratulations to Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner. He late night on Thursday night won the 2025 Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. This at the NFL Honors Awards show in San Francisco. Read to you from a press release, quote, "The Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide, is the league's most prestigious honor, recognizing players who excel on the field and demonstrate a commitment to making a positive impact beyond the game," end quote. Nice job, Bobby Wagner. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Feedback on what is, for all intents and purposes, the end of the Washington Post sports department. Washington Post executive editor Matt Murray on Wednesday morning told employees that the Post was closing its sports department, quote, in its current form, end quote. So many people have been laid off. Sad to see, but I actually think that for many of the talented sports writers who have been laid off, they may be better off because the Post is dying and new media is rising. And if these writers find their way with new media, and I believe that many of them will, then they'll do well. Email from Jerry Moore. Writes Jerry, Al, I am devastated. Can't imagine how to fill the void that will exist now. Podcasts like yours and Sheehan's are great. They really are. But they aren't the Washington Post sports section. How do longtime readers of the Washington Post sports section like me, 43 years, get coverage now regarding all of our sports teams? Any thoughts, Al? Thank you for the email, Jerry. Well, I would argue that this podcast and Kevin Sheehan's podcast are better than what the Washington Post sports section had become, but I digress. There now is a big-time void in terms of print media for Washington, D.C. area sports, and I do expect something or multiple things to rise up to fill that void. What would make a lot of sense would be a D.C. version of the Baltimore Banner, which is an online news outlet about Baltimore and covers Baltimore sports in in-depth fashion. The Baltimore Banner, at least from a sports standpoint, is good. What I don't know is whether the Baltimore Banner is profitable, and that matters. Saying that there now is a big-time void in terms of print media for Washington, D.C. area sports, and that the void needs to be filled sounds great, but is filling the void financially viable? That's the question. The Washington Post in 2023 reportedly lost $77 million. The Washington Post in 2024 reportedly lost $100 million. The Washington Post is no longer financially viable. Could/would a DC version of the Baltimore Banner be financially viable? I hope so, but I don't know so. At the very least, I do expect some people to do their own things a la Substack, and that can be very good. There are a lot of quality Substack accounts for people in sports media. I, on this podcast, have had a number of these people on as guests. Ben Standig, Mark Bullock, Kevin Cole, Tyler Dunn, Arif Hassan. These guys do really good work. Email from Doug Wilson. Writes Doug, Hey, Al. I was considering what value the Post has recently added over and above what you and Sheehan and Ben provide. The answer is none. With the loss of Boswell and Dan Steinberg coupled with the absolutely unbalanced perspectives brought to sports and everything else, when I compare that to what your podcasts bring, it's not even close. I get my Capitals reading at RMNB and everything else local from you, Sheehan, and Ben. Good riddance to the Post. And let the market decide what media outlets prevail. Thanks as always for the great content, Al. P.S. Regarding sports reading, it's interesting that Boswell and Peter Hassett have one thing in common. Reading them as opposed to anyone else is different. They both write at a level that you really look forward to reading. The other writers are great in their own right, but guys like those guys are just a couple steps above everyone else. Thank you for the email, Doug. Peter Hassett, co-founder of the great cap site, Russian Machine Never Breaks, RMNB, a multi-time guest on this podcast. I've been having Peter on as a guest for years, going back to my time in radio. Peter's terrific. As I have talked about, the Washington Post sports section had declined significantly in recent years. Not because the writers were bad. No, there still were plenty of good writers. The section had declined significantly in recent years because of the approach. Less coverage of local sports, more of an emphasis on national sports, including things like figure skating and gymnastics and skiing, things that I don't care about, things that I know many, if not most of you, don't care about. Also, I do think that the Post sports section too often in recent years let the politics of the paper creep into the sports section. Personally, I don't want politics in my sports section. I want, wait for it, sports in my sports section. One of the really telling things about all of the tributes to the Washington Post sports section in recent days has been that so many of the tributes have mentioned people and things from the past. Like when people have talked about how much they like or liked the Washington Post sports section, so much of the talk has revolved around people who are no longer with the Post or who barely now write for the Post. And in many cases, these people have been gone for years. I mean, just look at the columnists who so many have been mentioning. Tony Kornheiser, Michael Wilbon, Tom Boswell, the late John Feinstein, Sally Jenkins. They're all gone, except Boswell, who's written occasionally in retirement. But especially with the Kornheiser and Wilbon nostalgia, I don't know that most people realize how long those guys have been gone from the Post. Decades at this point. The era of Kornheiser and Wilbon at the Post, and this was a wonderful era. I grew up during that era, but that era ended decades ago now. And when you, in lamenting the loss of something, are primarily bringing up people and things that have been gone for years, well, that's a big part of the problem. That helps to explain the loss of that something. There's also this with the decline of the Washington Post, and this is more about the overall newspaper than just the sports section, but this is important for understanding what's happening here, and this is not being talked about nearly enough. So the business model for newspapers now is online subscriptions. That's how newspapers make money, if they make money. But back in the day, when newspapers were read in, handheld print form, the business model was advertising. Well, very few people now read newspapers in handheld print form, and online advertising is fickle, and so that business model based on advertising is dead. So the business model for newspapers now is online subscriptions. The Post, as we know, is a left-leaning newspaper. The Post in February 2017, shortly after Donald Trump's first inauguration as president, introduced the slogan, quote, "Democracy dies in darkness," end quote. And everyone knew what that slogan meant. The Post, in going hard left, alienated the many millions of Trump supporters, but kept many Trump haters. And so the online subscription model became made up overwhelmingly by Trump haters. Well, how do you keep subscribers happy? You give them what they want. What happened in the lead up to the 2024 presidential election? The Post, with Jeff Bezos as owner, tried to become more centrist, highlighted by the Post refusing to endorse a candidate in the 2024 presidential election. The Post stopped giving so many of its subscribers what they wanted and thus lost so many of those subscribers. And so the Post has lost a ton of readers because the Trump supporters are long gone and aren't coming back. And the Trump haters are upset with the Post for trying to be more down the middle. The whole situation is a mess. Put aside however you feel about Trump and however you feel about the Post political coverage. Just look at this from a business standpoint. The business model of advertising was predicated on a simple goal: generate the largest audience possible. The business model of online subscriptions became predicated on a different goal: keeping the online subscribers happy. And those online subscribers are mostly made up of people on the left. The Post, in appealing to the left, further alienated people on the right. And then the Post, in trying to get back the right, alienated the left but still did not get back the right. A complete debacle from a business standpoint. Two things from a piece by Reuters this past Wednesday really stood out to me. Number one, Reuters on the Washington Post, quote, its 2025 paid average daily circulation was 97,000, with roughly 160,000 on Sundays, representing a steep decline from its 250,000 average daily circulation in 2020, according to data from the Alliance for Audited Media, end quote. That is jaw-dropping. From a paid daily average circulation of 250,000 in 2020 to a paid average daily circulation of 97,000 in 2025. What a disaster. Number two, quote, the Post has clashed with some of its journalists who have openly criticized Bezos after the newspaper decided not to endorse a candidate in the November 2024 U.S. presidential election, leading to more than 200,000 people canceling their digital subscriptions, end quote. Another staggering stat, more than 200,000 people canceled their digital subscriptions to the Post off it not endorsing a candidate in the 2024 presidential election. Again, the Post, in appealing to the left, further alienated the right, and then the Post, in trying to get back the right, alienated the left, but still did not get back the right. A complete debacle from a business standpoint. As much as we talk about the specifics of the sports section, there is a lot about the sports section essentially being shut down that has nothing to do with the sports section. Hey, enjoy the big game this Sunday evening with no worries. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Well, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Make Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best the next day. Enjoy drinks with friends. Enjoy drinks while watching the big game, and don't sacrifice your productivity for the next day. Start your night with Z-Biotics pre-alcohol and wake up ready to show up strong at work, clear-headed, focused, and back to business. Go to zbiotics.com/Galdi and you'll get 15% off your first order when you use the promo code Galdi at checkout. Plus, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Also, subscriptions are available for maximum consistency. That's zbiotics.com/Galdi. Use the promo code Galdi at checkout for 15% off. Hey, for all of you parents out there with teenagers, we know that you're already trying to keep a million different things under control. Well, Cash App is here to help make sure that your teen's money and spending aren't adding to the craziness. Cash App is designed to meet teens aged 13 to 17 where they are with intuitive and educational tools. Available through sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, teens gain access to a personalized Cash App card that comes in different colors and patterns to fit the teen style, and the ability to instantly access money from family and friends. Cash App makes managing money feel easier and honestly just cooler than other options out there. Cash App also has tools that can help teens develop real-world financial habits in a space that's safe and easy to navigate, all with your oversight and approval. If your teen is getting a first job, Cash App can get your teen access to paychecks up to 2 days early and can help achieve personalized savings goals, all within the app. With Cash App, these tools become something your teen will actually want to use because they were designed with your teen in mind. Also, no one wants unnecessary surprises. Well, with Cash App, there are no monthly fees, no minimum balance requirements, and no hidden charges when sending or receiving money. With the Cash App card, you and your teen's balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring, and if something ever feels off, you have the ability to lock the card right from your phone in just one tap. Skip the stress and give your teen a way to learn financial responsibility with no hidden fees. Download Cash App and get started today, and for a limited time, a new Cash App customer can earn $10. Just use the code FAMILY10 in your profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partner or partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Direct deposit and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
I'm here on a job site with Tim, who owns his own electrical contracting business.
3 employees and 2 work trucks.
Tim traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance. We're positively here where he needs us most.
They sure are.
With step-by-step help on all his insurance needs, all for shockingly low rates.
Shockingly low, huh?
Just a little bit of electrician humour. Do you get it?
I got it.
You know, it feels like we have a real connection. All right, I'll stop.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Hey, if you happen to be listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can write a review of the podcast saying that you like it. The review can be just a sentence or two, but the reviews help out the podcast a lot. Thank you for doing them. A lot of change for the Washington Commanders coaching staff in recent weeks. A very interesting reported hire broke on Wednesday night. Reports on Wednesday night that the team is hiring Eric Henderson as defensive line coach and defensive run game coordinator, and is demoting defensive line coach Darryl Tapp to assistant defensive line coach. The Tapp demotion is unique. I mean, you rarely see an assistant coach be demoted. Like, usually if you're being demoted, you leave, but Tapp apparently is staying. Anyway, Eric Henderson spent the 2024 and 2025 seasons as USC's co-defensive coordinator / defensive run game coordinator / defensive line coach, but he has extensive NFL experience. He was the Los Angeles Chargers assistant defensive line coach for the 2017 and 2018 seasons. Commanders run game coordinator / running backs coach Anthony Lynn. He was the Chargers head coach from January 2017 to January 2021. So he was the Chargers head coach during Henderson's time as the team's assistant defensive line coach. And Henderson was with the Los Angeles Rams for the 2019 through 2023 seasons. He was the Rams defensive line coach for the 2019 and 2020 seasons. He was the Rams defensive line coach / defensive run game coordinator for the 2021 through 2023 seasons. In fact, legendary former Rams interior defensive lineman Aaron Donald is a big fan of Eric Henderson. We, in November 2022, had these exchanges with Donald during a press conference.
Eric Henderson is from New Orleans, kind of doing a feature on him. 4 years with him.
With who?
Coach Henderson.
Oh, okay. Coach Henderson.
How would you describe him? What's he like in 4 years?
Oh, well, obviously, I got a real good, close relationship with Coach Henny. A lot of love and respect for him as a person, as a coach. I think he was able to teach me and still teach me a lot of things. One of my regimens I do every week is, I sit down and I talk to Henny about, different schemes and different things that I can do to play better. And we've been like that for the past couple of years. So we just over the time we just grew a close relationship. I think he's a great young coach and one of the, if not the best, one of the top defensive line coaches in the National Football League, just from the things he's able to teach young guys, teach veteran guys, from technique things to be able to put us in certain positions to try to have success. So he's a guy that's always working, always trying to find a way, never satisfied. And, that's one thing that, we kind of got the same mindset towards a lot of things. So it's a lot of love and respect for Coach Henry. So.
Do you remember the first time you met him and what your first impression was?
Yeah, over the phone. I couldn't understand what he was saying. It was like, what? What did you say? Okay, Coach, all right, I see you. But obviously getting to, be around him and see his passion for the game, the way he went about it, from the drills to the film work. Just when he talk about football, sometimes you got to be like, hey, Coach, we got to do something because, he get in mode real quick. So, it's been good to have him and be a part of, building with him and, having my career with him. The past couple of years been good.
All right, so a nice endorsement of Eric Henderson from one of the best interior defensive linemen in NFL history, Aaron Donald. The Commanders' defensive line, like the defense as a whole, needs a lot of work. The Commanders' run defense has been a big problem for each of the team's 2 seasons with Dan Quinn as head coach. The Commanders for the 2024 regular season were number 27 out of 32 NFL teams in run defense in terms of expected points added per play per RBSDM.com. The Commanders for the 2025 regular season were number 28 out of 32 NFL teams in run defense in terms of expected points added per play per RBSDM.com. Is Eric Henderson the man to fix the Commanders' defensive line and fix the Commanders' run defense? For insight on what the team is getting in Eric Henderson, we welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Los Angeles Rams insider and USC football insider Greg Beacham of the Associated Press. You could follow Greg on X at Greg Beacham. Hey, Greg, how are you?
Good, Al. Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to talk to you. Eric Henderson, as mentioned, spent the 2024 and 2025 seasons as USC's co-defensive coordinator / defensive run game coordinator / defensive line coach. But USC on January 23rd announced the hiring of former TCU head coach Gary Patterson as defensive coordinator. Is Henderson no longer being at USC more his choosing or USC's choosing?
I think it's more his choosing. I mean, obviously a new coordinator coming in is going to want his own things, all that kind of stuff. But having said that, he's the kind of guy that can stick around pretty much anywhere he wants. He's one of those position coaches that develops a following and an ability and a skill at that particular job that makes you kind of invaluable to basically any coaching staff. So he'd been in the college game for 2 years. He was getting used to it. He was getting into the recruiting aspect of it. He was actually a really good recruiter at USC, did a lot of good work. But having said that, I mean, I've always thought if you have a choice, you should be in the NFL. It's a better lifestyle. You don't have to worry about a 19-year-old doing something stupid, ruining your career, which is, seems like a pretty good decision. So I think he had the urge to get back in the NFL. And I think teams wanted him. I mean, he interviewed with the Cowboys before this. He may have talked to some other teams as well. So I think it's mostly his choice. I think USC would have been glad to keep him, but they also knew that a guy of his caliber kind of belongs in the NFL.
If Eric Henderson had been offered the USC defensive coordinator job, would he have taken it or still left for the NFL?
I think anybody would want to move up to a coordinator job. Having said that, to be a first-time coordinator at USC would be a hell of a challenge. That would be really tough, and especially in a year that's so important for Lincoln Riley. I mean, he's been there 4 years. He hasn't contended for the playoffs since the first season with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He needs to show results now, and I think Gary Patterson is a guy that Lincoln has admired since the start of his coaching career. What he was able to do with how little he had at TCU some years. So I think he would have loved to be the coordinator, but I don't know that that's what would work best at USC right now, just because they got to win now. They got to fix this now. They got to get it right now. Trusting it to a first-time defensive coordinator, even a one as respected as Eric Henderson, as understanding of the overall concept as Eric Henderson, would have been a tough sell.
If we go by defensive efficiency per ESPN, USC's rankings for the 3 seasons prior to hiring Eric Henderson: 2021, number 107, 2022, number 82, 2023, number 90. Some bad defenses. USC's rankings for the 2 seasons with Henderson: 2024, number 43, 2025 at number 53. His USC defenses weren't elite, but they were quite a bit better than USC defenses were the previous 3 seasons. What's your assessment of the work that he did at USC?
I think he worked really well with D'Anton Lynn, who was the coordinator the last 2 years after Lincoln was forced to fire his good buddy, who could not coordinate a defense to save his life. I think Eric was a big impact in terms of like the overall discipline and culture that you set in a defense, which is almost as important as scheming in defense. If you got guys who will execute their assignments and who maintain discipline, that's the most important thing. And the way that Eric Henderson works into that is he gets guys on the same page in a way that few position coaches can. These great offensive line coaches, these great defensive line coaches. There's guys who develop a real cult of personality, and guys will follow them into battle for anything. Eric Henderson is 100% one of those guys. He had a major impact on pretty much every defensive line recruit that USC had over the last 2 years. He turned Cam Fountain he turned Cam Fountain into an elite defensive player who is going to make a big impact at the next level someday. He's got guys along that line that he built up along the way. He adjusted really well to changing to teaching teenagers as opposed to grown men. And I don't think it'll be any problem for him to go back to the NFL, because it's just a better situation all around.
You mentioned Eric Henderson as a recruiter. He per 24/7 Sports is the number one recruiter in all of college football. He is number one in 24/7 Sports' 2026 football recruiter rankings. What do you make of that?
What that speaks to is his cult of personality. Not even a cult. He's one of those guys that you meet and you feel like you've known for a long time. And if you're a parent, you would immediately trust your kid with him. I mean, I don't know how to express that. You've met guys like this who are just charismatic men, who are just charismatic women, who know how to impress people, who know how to speak to their level, who know how to tell them what they want to hear while still being truthful about it. You know what I mean? That's the key with recruiting, is like presenting a plan for a kid's future, putting it forward. Recruiting has changed a lot in the last few years, but he came in at the time when we were starting with NIL. We were going through all that kind of stuff where it's just a kind of a different game, but he's more of an old school. I will teach you how to be better, and I will get you to where you want to go. If you follow me, if you do the dog work, which is his thing, that's his phrase. You'll hear it a lot in the next few years. If you stick with us, and you do what I say, you're going to get to where you want to go. And he's excellent at selling that. He was an excellent recruiter, even though he hadn't really done it when he came to USC. And all those skills translate to teaching grown men too, because it's all about leadership. It's all about accountability. It's all about setting out a plan and making sure that people can follow it. And all that stuff you have to do in the NFL as well.
Eric Henderson's 5-season run with the Rams, it included them winning the Super Bowl for the 2021 season. What can you tell us about his time with the Rams?
He was invaluable to that team. I mean, he was a constant when they changed defensive coordinators. You know, when they went from Brandon Staley to where they're at with Raheem, and now where they're at with Chris Shula. You know, he left when that took over. But he was a huge part of building that team as an institution, as a thing where you can plug in different players and do the same thing. The Rams changed a bit on defense after the first 3 seasons when Sean let Wade Phillips go and hired Brandon Staley. That was the beginning of Sean McVay taking a bigger role in the Rams' overall defense. He wanted to talk about schemes. He wanted to talk about the overall attitude and he meshed really well with Brandon Staley. And so then Sean didn't become the defensive coordinator, but he became much more involved in what was going on with defense, and that's been a key to have their success over the last few years. Eric Henderson was a huge part of that because he was able to provide stability and a long line of good guys up front who could play. I mean, you have Aaron Donald, you're already starting from a position of advantage, and you have to factor that into everything. Like, he affects what all the other 3 guys do on the line. He affects what the linebackers do, all that kind of stuff. Having said that, he built such a unit where guys like Michael Brockers could come in and could leave, and then they could replace him. Michael Brockers was an excellent NFL defensive end, and when he had to leave because of contract stuff a year before their Super Bowl championship, they just kept going. They found guys, they plugged them in, not one guy doing one job at everything. And they did it over and over again. And Eric Henderson's consistency, his structure, all that kind of stuff is great for an NFL team. I think it's perfect for NFL culture. I think the Commanders are really, really going to like it.
Did the Rams during Eric Henderson's time with the team have good defensive line talent beyond Aaron Donald, or was Henderson getting a lot out of talent that wasn't especially good?
Yeah, I go back to saying that, having Aaron Donald on your team makes everyone better. You increase your numbers, you bring in Von Miller, you bring in the guys that they brought along the line. Like I said, Michael Brockers was a stalwart on this defense. People who don't watch the Rams every week don't know how big an impact Michael Brockers had on building Sean McVay's team into what it was today. He was a run stopper. He was all those kinds of things. All this worked together with Eric Henderson. I mean, he took guys that you wouldn't think would be good, and he turned Sebastian Joseph Day into a really good player. He's done a bunch of things with a bunch of guys to get them to the next level, little things in their career. You don't know how to quantify all this because of the Aaron Donald factor. But having said that, he couldn't have a better reputation in terms of how he builds things. He's got Sean McVay's, imprimatur, all that kind of stuff. And they just win. They have a great defensive line. You can't separate those two. Eric Henderson is part of this, and there's no way to fault him for that. Yeah.
Why did Eric Henderson leave the Rams for USC?
He kind of just wanted a new challenge. He knew he wasn't going to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL at that point. And the USC offered him a lot of money. Let's put it that way. He has a sterling reputation in Los Angeles. He has a sterling reputation in Southern California, even though he's not a Southern California guy. He's an East Coast guy. But USC was rebuilding a coaching staff, and they were like, well, Eric's looking for a job. He might want this. Let's throw a bunch of money at him, see if he'll take it. And he did. He wasn't going to go back to college unless it was for an elite program. And USC, meets that criteria financially, if not on the field lately. But he saw that as a challenge. He didn't have to move, and he could continue to build his resume, build his skills. I mean, if you're an assistant coach, at some point you have to branch out and try new things and accept new challenges. And he really wanted to do that. USC was a perfect situation. Lincoln Riley was so grateful to have him. Danton Lynn was so grateful to have him. It was a big success for both sides. But like I said, if you can get back to the NFL, I think that's probably a good idea.
Much more with Greg Beacham in moments, but if you enjoy this podcast, check out BGO Blind Pig, the official podcast of BGObsession.com. BGO Blind Pig is great. It is a roundtable discussion of the Washington Commanders. It's like you and a bunch of your buddies who are Commanders fans are hanging out and talking about the team. The conversation is smart and fun and respectful. I have had the pleasure of being on the BGO Blind Pig podcast. It was a lot of fun. Enhance your Commanders content and check out the BGO Blind Pig podcast. You can find the BGO Blind Pig podcast on YouTube and on any major podcast provider. Make BGObsession.com the home for your burgundy and gold obsession, and make the BGO Blind Pig podcast part of your Commanders podcast rotation. We're talking with Los Angeles Rams insider and USC football insider Greg Beacham of the Associated Press. All right. I did want to ask you about two former Washington defensive backs who have done some very good things with the Rams. Safety Kamren and cornerback Emmanuel Forbes Jr. Curl was taken by the Redskins in the 7th round of the 2020 NFL Draft. It did some good things for Washington over 4 seasons with the team, but then in March 2024 signed as an unrestricted free agent with the Rams. The Commanders took Forbes with the number 16 overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. He, for the Commanders, was a bust. They, on November 30th, 2024, announced having released him. Well, the Commanders' defenses of the last 2 seasons have had a lot of problems. So the team's secondary for the 2025 season was a mess. They're in the Washington, D.C. area is lament, is regret regarding Cam Curl and Emmanuel Forbes. What is the truth about how they've done with the Rams?
I think the Commanders could use a guy like Cam Curl and a guy like Emmanuel Forbes, honestly. They both played really well. I mean, you guys knew what Cam was. I mean, you saw him play. He's a safety, man. He's a classic safety. He does the job. He knows his assignments. He doesn't miss tackles very much. He's an exceptional tackler. And he just shows up every week. He plays. He doesn't get hurt that much. He just gets the job done. The Rams really needed him. He was their leading tackler in the playoffs, in those 3 playoff games. He was their second leading tackler during the regular season. He fills a big role for them because the way their defense is structured, they have one safety who basically functions as a slot corner. In this case, it's Quentin Lake because he's a really good cover guy. And then they use Cam Curl as the more traditional safety back there, often with Cam Kinchins from the University of Miami. They were a really good duo this year, and I think it was the best season Cam ever had. He said it was his best season. Having said that, I know he played really well for Washington too. So I just think he's such a professional. He's such a good, last line of defense safety guy, but also can get up in the box and stop the run. He's a free agent now. The Rams will be talking to people. At this point, it's a numbers game. After 6 or 7 NFL seasons, you just kind of have to do what you got to do. I think they'd like him back. It's just a question whether somebody throws a bunch of money at him after seeing him have his best season of the year. Emmanuel Forbes been very impressive as well. I mean, I know why he didn't work out with the Commanders, and there's way more factors to it than just Emmanuel. Obviously, you know this story better than I do even. But he got here. He immediately sensed the culture of the Rams, which is one thing that Sean McVay does really well, is he establishes accountability for guys, tells them what their role is, and tells them we are going to help you get better. There's very little like posturing or tough guyness. They took Emmanuel under their arm, under their wing, and said, this is what we want you to do. We want you to get better at the end of this season. And next season, we got a plan for you. They did it. They announced in the offseason that he'd done so well that we thought he was going to start as a cornerback. We were all like, wow, okay, you guys really think you can fix that guy. And he came in, he played really well. I mean, every cornerback is going to be judged by their worst moments. And almost every cornerback has situations where things don't go right for them. It's not always their fault. Having said that, that defensive staff really likes him. They think he's got potential to grow into something. I assume they're going to keep him around next year. There's contractual stuff, obviously, with the situation, but I think he really wants to stay. He's really found a home there. You hear him talk about Los Angeles. He's like, yeah, it's so much better. I have such a better experience than I had at my last stop, that kind of thing. And that's a cultural thing. It's not city versus city. It's not winning versus losing even. It's having coaches who believe in you and trust in you. He really played well here. And I think he's got a future.
The game that stood out to so many of us was the Rams' 34-7 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football this past November 23rd. Emmanuel Forbes in that game on national television put on a show. He, in that game, had 5 pass defenses, including an interception. He, for the game, had an overall grade per Pro Football Focus of 92.4. He, in the game, per the NFL's Next Gen Stats, faced 7 targets and did not allow a single reception. No defender since Week 12 of the 2022 regular season had been targeted more times without allowing a catch in a regular season game. Heck, take a listen to this from Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on NBC's Sunday Night Football during that game.
Without Quentin Lake for the first time for the Rams this year. Bridgewater, his throat broken up. Emmanuel Forbes has been around the ball a lot here tonight. The third-year man out of Mississippi State, former commander, and the Bucs going to go for it here, of course, on fourth.
Watch him. He just has a little swagger working here tonight. It's easy when you have a big lead. I got all that.
Yeah, that game by Emmanuel Forbes was impressive.
Yeah. I mean, his size is obviously his biggest issue. I mean, he's still, he's still not a huge cornerback by any means. Having said that, if you put him in a situation where he can defend a guy, defend a space in a zone, that kind of thing, and do his job, he has the athleticism and the ball skills and the anticipation to make it work. I think it's just a combination of getting a guy in the right role where his limitations are not exposed as much, and then trusting in him, believing in him, getting him mentally. I mean, defensive back, that's probably the most important thing, is just believing that you can do it. If you have the physical skills, that's why you're in the NFL. The problem is the mental skills. I think Emmanuel got psyched out, first round pick. Everybody thought he was disappointing. He was on not a great team. He got to Los Angeles. He had a role. He was not the star of the defense. He was not the star of the team by any means. Just had to do his job. He thrived in that situation. And that Tampa game was a good example.
Another former Washington employee with the Rams is the head coach, Sean McVay. He was with the Redskins for the 2010 through 2016 seasons, was an offensive assistant for the 2010 season, was the Skins tight ends coach for the 2011 through 2013 seasons, was the Skins offensive coordinator for the 2014 through 2016 seasons. He now has had an outstanding 9-season run as Rams head coach. The Rams this past Monday morning announced having signed McVay and general manager Les Need to contract extensions. McVay just turned 40. During the 2022 and 2023 off seasons was talk of him potentially moving on to something else, but are we now at the point at which we look at McVay as a guy who's going to end up having a decades-long run as head coach of the Rams?
He seems to have gotten over that midlife crisis. We don't hear about it nearly as much anymore. There was a few years where it's like, I don't know if I'll be doing this forever. I think it's kind of like you achieve everything you can in your profession by the time you're 37. And it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? I got to find something else. A competitor's mentality. That's what he's like. I got to find another challenge. He's realized that it's one thing to win a Super Bowl. It's another thing to build a champion and build a contender. He looks up to guys like Belichick. He looks up to guys like Andy Reid, who've managed to do it for a long time. I think he's finally gotten over that hump in his mind where he was like, I have to find my next challenge. I have to do that next thing. I think he's settled in. He's more content than he's been for a while. He's realized that the real challenge is doing it year after year after year. That's what's impressive. You can't control, the playoff results to a certain extent. They can come down to a couple plays here or there. But if you can build a consistent winner year after year, those are the greats of your profession. Those are the guys that people are going to remember, the guys who really did it, for a long period of time. I think he's very happy with the Rams. They just gave him a contract extension, gave him a ton of money, which he was already getting a ton of money. He's got a GM that he genuinely gets along with and works with well. Sean can be kind of a hothead sometimes and get emotional and stuff. Les is a great counterpoint to that. Les Snead is a guy who is chill, who is cool, who is perfect counterpoint to Sean's mania sometimes. And he's got a really rich ownership group. He's got a great stadium, all that kind of stuff. I think it comes down to if they're able, what they're able to do after Matthew Stafford leaves. So if they're able to find that next quarterback, if they're able to go out and get another veteran who wants a new home, if they're able to draft a guy and develop him, which I think Sean would love to do, but you got to be in the right position to get the right guy that you want. I think that could extend his, stay for indefinitely. I don't see him looking to leave in a way that he may have been looking around a couple of years ago. I think it feels like he's here for the long term.
Los Angeles Rams insider and USC football insider Greg Beacham of the Associated Press. Greg, thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Al. I'll catch you next time.
All right. Hey, if you have a case, contact the NACE Law Group Accident and Injury Lawyers. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and mention that Al Galdi sent you. You could call 202-902-7611. You could also visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com, and submit for a free, no-obligation case review. The Nace Law Group features compassionate lawyers and zealous advocates for its clients, led by the great Chris Nace and founded in 1979. The Nace Law Group is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. The Nace Law Group is outstanding. It will fight for you and your family. The Nace Law Group has recovered millions of dollars for the sick and injured. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. The Washington Capitals at last have arrived at their break for the Winter Olympics in Italy. The 2025-2026 NHL regular season is pausing from February 6th through the 24th to accommodate the Olympics. The first time that NHL players have participated in an Olympics since 2014. The Caps in the lead-up to this break played 6 games in 10 days, and the Caps in the lead-up to this break went 4-1-0. This off a stretch in which they went 8-13-5.
And a win for Tyson Jost. A clear to center. A puck that comes back in front of the penalty box is found by Sandin. He will dump in. The final 8 seconds tick off, and the crowd comes to their feet. Good luck to Tom Wilson and Logan Thompson and Martin Faravari in Italy. For the rest, it's off to the break. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Nashville. The Capitals take down the Predators 4-2 the final, and now head out until the 25th of February.
John Walton on the Washington Capitals radio network, a 4-2 win over the Nashville Predators at Capital One Arena on Thursday night. The Caps in this regular season improved to 29-23-7, good for 65 points, tied with the Columbus Blue Jackets for 4th place in the 8-team Metropolitan Division, although the Caps have played 3 more games than the Blue Jackets have played. And the Caps on Thursday night got back 2 key players in goaltender Logan Thompson and second-line center Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Off the stick of Eric Halla, and then he'll end up with a puck again as the Caps fail to clear. And left side for the Preds, down into the near corner. Halla in front, Marchessault getting a one-timer. What a stop by Logan Thompson, able to make that from in tight. That had something on it, too, from Marchessault. Great one-timer from number 81 for Nashville. And Thompson, that save he's had to make yet. 10-18 to go here in the first.
So the Caps goaltending situation, thankfully now, is closer to normal. Their number 1 goaltender, Logan Thompson, he returned from a 4-game absence caused by an upper body injury. The Caps on Thursday afternoon announced having activated Thompson from injured reserve, and he on Thursday night was good. He stopped 27 of the 29 shots on goal that he faced, was key in the Caps going 4 for 4 on the penalty kill. The Caps won 4-2 despite losing the puck possession battle. They had 30 shots on goal to the Predators' 29, but per natural stat trick had just 38 5-on-5 shot attempts to the Predators' 47, including just 11 5-on-5 high-danger shot attempts to the Predators' 17. But Logan Thompson was up to the task. And now, the Caps' number 2 goaltender, Charlie Lindgren, he did remain out. He, for a 4th consecutive game, was not available due to a lower body injury. The Caps' backup goaltender for this game was Clay Stevenson, who had started each of the Caps' 3 previous games. And the Caps on Thursday afternoon announced having lone goaltender Garen Bjorklund to their AHL affiliate, the Hershey Bears. And yes, Pierre-Luc Dubois was back, and he was impactful.
Final 13 seconds, and Weisblatt will be back on. Strome trying to make his way in right side. The zone entry works, and they score! And it's Pierre-Luc Dubois! Oh, how about that? Strome drives to left side, then it into the middle. Dubois picked it up with just 6 seconds left in the power play. It's his first goal of the season. Have a day, PLD. It's 2-0 Washington.
Pierre-Luc Dubois, the man known as PLD, he returned from a 47-game absence. The Caps on Thursday afternoon announced having activated Dubois from injured reserve, which he had been on, off getting injured in the Caps' 3-1 loss to the New York Islanders at Capital One Arena on Halloween. He, on November 7th, underwent surgery to address injuries to his abdominal and adductor muscles. Was expected to miss 3 to 4 months. Well, now he's back, and Dubois, in his return, served as the Caps' second-line center and scored a power play goal, 12:48 into the first period for his first goal in this regular season. Also, he had a primary assist, and he went 9-5 on faceoffs. So welcome back, Pierre-Luc Dubois. The Caps very much missed him. Not all of the injury news for the Caps is good. Defenseman John Carlson left this win over the Predators on Thursday night due to a lower body injury. Also, winger Sonny Milano was not available due to a personal reason, and forward Connor McMichael did not play for a fourth consecutive game due to an upper body injury. But also, with a big game in this win over the Predators on Thursday night was Caps defenseman Jacob Chychrun. He scored 2 goals, giving him at 21 goals in this regular season.
One back to Ovechkin. And right side here to Strome. Chychrun looking for a lane. Lets it fly, and he scores! Second of the game. 21st of the year. A new career high, and the Capitals lead it 4-2.
Yeah, Jacob Chychrun, he scored an even-strength goal, 8:42 into the second period, and scored a power play goal, 13:11 into the third period, as the Caps went 2 for 6 on the power play. Chychrun became just the second defenseman in franchise history to have at least 2 consecutive regular seasons in which he scored at least 20 goals in each regular season, joining Larry Murphy, who had 2 consecutive 20-goal regular seasons over the 1985-1986 and 1986-1987 regular seasons. Also, Chychrun had a secondary assist for his 25th assist in this regular season, and he finished with a game-high 11 total shot attempts, including a game-high 7 shots on goal. Caps second-line right wing Tom Wilson, he scored an even-strength goal, 4:15 into the first period for his 23rd goal in this regular season. Also, he had 4 hits. And Caps top-line left wing Alex Ovechkin, he had a secondary assist for his 26th assist in this regular season. The Caps' healthy scratches for this win over the Predators on Thursday night were defensemen Declan Chisholm and Dylan McIlrath. Also, the Caps on Wednesday afternoon announced having loaned forward Bogdan Trineyev to Hershey. And so now the Caps have their break for the Olympics. The Caps' next game is home to the Philadelphia Flyers on Wednesday night, February 25th at 7. So the Washington Wizards ended up making just one trade in the lead up to Thursday's NBA trade deadline at 3 p.m. Eastern, but of course it was a big trade. The news broke via various reports on Wednesday afternoon, and the Wizards on Thursday night officially announced having acquired Anthony Davis in a 3-team deal with the Dallas Mavericks and Charlotte Hornets, as yes, this did end up being a 3-team deal. The Wizards traded Chris Middleton, Marvin Bagley III, A.J. Johnson, a 2026 first-round pick, a 2030 protected first-round pick, and 3 second-round picks to the Mavericks for Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum. Also, the Wizards, as part of the deal, traded Malachi Branham to the Hornets. I like the trade as much now as I did in talking about the trade on Thursday's show, episode 1254. This is a low-cost, high-upside trade for our Wizards. So they are getting Anthony Davis for next to nothing. Remember, the 2 first-round picks are basically fake first-round picks. Yes, Davis is aging, is constantly injured, and is expensive. All of that is true, but what's also true is that he still is a high-level player when healthy, and again, the Wizards are getting him for very little. How about this? Anthony Davis for the Wizards will wear number 23. That, according to Monumental Sports Network Wizards play-by-play announcer Chris Miller. The last player to wear number 23 for the Wizards was Michael Jordan over his 2 seasons as a player for the Wizards, the 2001-2002 and 2002-2003 seasons. The Wizards did have a game on Thursday night, and they somehow won a 126-117 win at the Detroit Pistons on Thursday night. The Wizards in the NBA's 2025-2026 regular season now are 14-36, fifth worst record in the NBA. The Wizards won despite having just 10 players available to play. Tristan Vukcevic was back. He returned from a 10-game absence. He, for 8 consecutive games, was listed as dealing with a left hamstring strain. He, for the first 2 games, was listed as being out due to left knee soreness. But Trey Johnson did not play for a 4th consecutive game due to a left ankle sprain. Trae Young did not play for a 14th time in 14 games since being acquired by the Wizards via trade on January 9th. He's not playing due to a right knee sprain and a right quadriceps contusion. And Cam Whitmore is done for the season. The Wizards on January 15th announced that he had started the recovery process for a diagnosed venous condition and would miss the remainder of the season. The undermanned Wizards somehow never trailed in this road game at a Pistons team that came into the game an Eastern Conference best 37-12 in this regular season. Also, the Wizards won despite head coach Brian Keefe not playing 4 of his 5 starters at all in the 4th quarter. The Wizards did what they could to tank this game, and yet they won. Their leading scorer was Will Riley, who continues to look good.
Riley edge of the circle. Guarded by Robinson, spins, off 1 foot, fades, left side of lane, swish, a new career high for Will Riley. He has 20 points. The Wizards lead by 9 with 2:38 left in the 4th.
Dave Johnson on the Washington Wizards radio network. Will Riley in 29 minutes, 22 seconds as a reserve had 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists versus no turnovers and 2 steals. He went 2 for 5 on threes and 7 for 9 on twos. Did go 0 for 3 on free throws, but he's looked good lately. The Wizards this weekend have 2 games at the Brooklyn Nets Saturday afternoon at 3 and home to the Miami Heat Sunday afternoon at 2. Well, what the Wizards are doing, hopefully, will deliver long-term success. Short-term thinking does not deliver long-term results. Good process does. Science does, especially when it comes to skincare. And the best product for skincare is OneSkin. OneSkin formulas are powered by the OS1 peptide, a patented peptide built on longevity science proven to target aging at the cellular level. OneSkin supports the cellular repair that keeps your skin looking and feeling better as you get older. This is not about adding extra steps to your routine. No, this is about swapping in smarter ones. Born from over 10 years of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. And for a limited time, OneSkin is making it even easier to stay consistent with up to 30% off your first 3 subscription orders when you use the promo code GALDY at oneskin.co/GALDY. That's oneskin.co/GALDY and use the promo code GALDY. oneskin.co/GALDY, up to 30% off with the promo code GALDY. And after your purchase, you'll be asked where you heard about OneSkin. Please support our show and say that Al Galdi sent you. Well, the less said about Maryland basketball right now, the better, and so we won't say much. The Terrapins in the 2025-2026 regular season fell to 8-14 overall, including 1-10 in the Big Ten, with an 82-62 loss to Ohio State at Xfinity Center in College Park, Maryland on Thursday night. As the Terps' nightmare of a season continues, they right now have no chance in these games without the team's best player, 6'9" Texas A&M transfer Pharrell Payne. He did not play for an 11th consecutive game due to a right knee injury. Maryland trailed by at least 9 points for all of the second half. each of Maryland's 10 Big Ten losses has been by at least 10 points. This team, beyond Pharrell Payne, just is not good. The roster had to be completely rebuilt off Kevin Willard last March, leaving his job as Maryland head coach to become Villanova head coach. I get it. The Terps head coach, Buzz Williams, was not officially hired until this past April 1st, late in the coaching cycle. I get it. But all of that does not excuse this team being this bad. This is one of the worst Maryland teams that I've ever seen, maybe the worst. Next up for Maryland, at Minnesota, Sunday afternoon at 2. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Monday show, episode 1256. We'll have a lot for you on the Washington Commanders. Also on Monday's show, I'll discuss the Washington Wizards and college basketball. The Wizards this weekend have 2 games at the Brooklyn Nets Saturday afternoon at 3 and home to the Miami Heat Sunday afternoon at 2. And college basketball this weekend includes Maryland at Minnesota Sunday afternoon at 2. Georgetown home to Villanova Saturday at noon. Number 18 Virginia home to Syracuse Saturday at noon. Virginia Tech at NC State Saturday at noon. George Mason home to St. Joseph's Saturday afternoon at 4. VCU home to Dayton Friday night at 7. And George Washington at Duquesne Saturday afternoon at 2. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
The damn Washington Wizards.